I mean, give me a damn break already. Can we just stop the insanity? Can we just speak normally? Right? I mean, yes, we're going to send all of the women to the front lines. I mean, it's just so aggravating that we have to deal with this over and over and over again by these idiots. But even worse, he says,
Connection established.
Welcome back, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are here with Andy Schectman. He's the CEO of Miles Franklin. We have a lot to talk about. We haven't done a show in a while. We're going to be going over all of your questions. I made a post like a week and a half ago. What do you guys want to ask Andy? There's a whole bunch. We're going to go through them. I did want to announce real quick, folks, I have a phone number you guys can call me at now. Besides the Slayer at Miles Franklin, you can call me at 330-485 6172. I just made the number yesterday, so I don't even remember it myself. You guys can call me, text me there. I think I'm going to start doing like maybe if Andy would let me like flash sales, like maybe for the next 5 hours, I'll give you a 5% discount, or after 6 or 7 orders, you guys get a special discount or something just to engage, give back to people that support me.
I love that idea, by the way. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what this all is. It's community.
Yeah.
And I'm honored to have you represent Miles Franklin. I truly am. And you're a fun guy to talk to, you know, offline, off being on camera. You're one of the few people, and I don't mean to pigeonhole you by saying you're young. To me, you're younger than most of the people in this industry who are, you know, that I've been watching all these gray hairs for the last 30 plus years, and you get it. And you get it in a big way. And I think people ought to call you and reach out to you and talk to you and get your wisdom. And, you know, actually talking is a lost art these days. Everyone thinks it has to be by text or email or voicemail, but having a conversation and establishing a relationship goes a long way. I mean, that's how you and I started our friendship. It was on a phone call turned into something much bigger. And I think relationships are what make the world go round. And unfortunately, that's been lost over the last several years with increased automation and ease of talking without having to talk. So yeah, the fact that you're asking people to call and talk to me is amazing. And if people don't take advantage of that, I think it's to their own detriment.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of fun getting to know people. And you know, that's what I was trying to say. Like, I want to help people out. Like, I was literally just on the phone with someone right before we started this, and just, you know, like hearing a story. He's been following me for like 5 months now, and he's never had a 10-ounce bar before. He's always had like these little 1-ounce coins. And, you know, I was like, dude, go for it. He's so excited. He's like, I never had a bar that heavy. You know, he's a newer stacker. He has like, you know, little stuff. So
people never realize how important a relationship is until there's a problem.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I grew up at a period of time where, you know, there were no Home Depots. There were local hardware stores, and they knew your name, and they give you free popcorn on Fridays, and all the kids would go there, and they knew your name, and they knew your parents' names, and they were there to help you. And if there was a problem, it would be resolved. And you know, I don't mean to be nostalgic. I'm just simply saying that we've come into a world that is more about convenience and ease and savings rather than focusing on, I think, what's important, and that is relationships and customer service and peace of mind, if you will, knowing that you'll always be taken care of. Go into Home Depot once and you know, try and find something and watch how hard it is to even find someone that works there that knows where it is. And then once you do find it, can they tell you anything about it? Now, I'm not pointing my finger at Home Depot. I'm just using an analogy that relationships are very important, and where we are heading, man, in this world, I think they will only be that much more important. So I encourage everyone to reach out to you and establish a relationship. It's the best way to move forward.
That is a good point. Just real quick, I know, you know, I just wanted to mention something, because one of my longtime clients, he was like, what happens if I want to sell someday? And I was like, you know, I would be willing to give you probably the highest price. Like we buy back above spot price. Most people will charge you 2% under, but also because you're buying from us, we're more inclined to help out someone that works with us. Like these relationships, they can go both ways, and they can go a lot further.
It's a good point. We always do provide a two-way market, and our bid prices are typically the highest in the industry, always.
They are
And
for sure.
and you don't have to have bought it from us to sell it back to us. But yeah, I think a two-way market is something that's incredibly important. And there are companies out there, and usually they're the ones that are selling this modern minted nonsense. Some of the, I'm not going to mention the names, but there's a one or two in particular. They focus on MS-69, first strike, this and that, and their name sounds like it's very official. Like it might even be part of the U.S. government, but they're not, and they don't buy back their stuff. And I know this because they
Hmm.
would often exhibit at a lot of the conferences I would be at, and their stuff is very cool to look at. I even
Hmm.
bought a few things. Like I was a big baseball player my whole life, and softball into my 40s. All around North America, I played, and I love baseball. And they had a couple of these concave baseball coins made by the U.S. Mint in MS-69, and they were a fortune. I don't care. I bought a few of them. I liked them.
Yeah.
And they have, coins signed MS-70, and they're signed on the PCGS holder by the Secretary of the Treasury. Oh, who gives a shit? None of
Right.
that matters. But the reason I know this is that I got to know some of these guys. They were from Minnesota, where I was, and they would say, "We don't buy our stuff back." I'm like, "What? Well, what do you mean? Well, we don't buy it back." Well, any company that won't buy it back, you got to go run from. You only want
Yeah.
to make sure you buy from a company that will always buy back from you, and we always will, and at the
Yeah.
highest prices in the country.
Yeah, it was impressive. The one day the guy was asking, like if I buy these Eagles, these monster boxes, how much would you buy back? And I don't want to say the actual price right now because I don't know if it's changed, but I was shocked. Like I was like, that is awesome. And I asked Justin why, and I was like, well, he's like, we don't make any money from buybacks because we're gonna resell it at a profit anyway. So why would we rip our clients off buying it back from,
Well, not
especially
only
the
that, I mean, and there's a more fair way to answer that question. And if you would have bought, let's go back to 2019 and any time before that. You go back most of my career, the US Mint has been pretty static at their prices. And so, you would pay, let's call it 339 to 359 over spot to buy Silver Eagles most of my career. And most of my career, I would have bought them back from you for between 265 and 285 over spot. That would have been the buyback. So you were talking, a difference in price between 60 and 80 cents bid ask. So let's say someone called and asked you that question and say, hey, I want Slayer, I want to buy 3 mint boxes, and this was, let's just say, we had this relationship way back when, and Thanksgiving Day 2019, you're just about ready to go have Thanksgiving dinner with your family, and the phone rings, and it's one of your good clients says, hey man, hook me up. By the way, what will you sell them to me for? You say 339. Great. What will you buy them back for? 265. Great. Lock it in. Calls you back 5 months later in the middle of COVID and says, hey, dude, I need to sell. My business got shut down. It's non-essential. It's not a dispensary or a liquor store. So I need to get some money. Could you buy it back? And you told me 265 over. Are you still good with that? And the answer would have been, no, I can't give you 265, but how about $11 over? Because the premiums are not just a function, as they always were most of my career, of production and distribution, where the mint takes a blank piece of silver or gold and turns it into a coin, puts it in tubes of 20 and boxes of 500 and sends it out to the public. But it's become, over the last several years, more a function of that plus supply and demand, or the lack thereof. And when you look at how poor the U.S. Mint has been at keeping up with demand, they are the model of inefficiency, really. Premiums can go way higher. So when you quote a premium now, it's today, it's at one point in a circle. But who's to say what tomorrow may bring? And I have a feeling with the less than 0.5% ownership in metals in the United States, that something over the next several months probably will trigger people's mentality to look at things a little bit differently. Unconventional times call for unconventional thought, and these are anything but normal. So yeah, we will always buy it back, and premiums will fluctuate. And if there's far more demand than there is supply, the buyback premiums will be at markedly higher. And if it's the other way around, they'll be lower. So, but we will always be at the very top of the buyback list, and it's important to us to always provide that two-way market. I'm glad you asked that question.
Yeah, so we got a whole bunch of questions that I wanna shoot across to you. I think this is gonna be really fun. I always
Do it.
always like hearing what other people want to ask you because it's always me being the one. So can you see the screen right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I said, if you had one question to ask for Andy for this week's show, what would you ask? So we have a lot of them. I hearted a couple that I really wanted to hear. So the first one is this is from Brian Van Winkle 8951, the Texas lady that bought $50 million in precious metals last summer. How much would that cost her to purchase the same amount today? Do we even that is
Well, that's kind of a tough question because here gets to the question on premiums.
yeah.
She bought over 900,000 silver eagles and a bunch of jug silver and a bunch of gold. I'd have to look at the numbers, but we did two orders of over 50 million. The second one, I'll explain, she's way ahead. The first one, she paid, I want to say over $12.50 premium per silver eagle. That's how crazy things were when she bought
Yeah,
it
it was
and
yeah.
wanted it. And I remember it was Bill Holter who it was his client, and he's a representative of Miles Franklin, and I was saying, these premiums are insane. Well, that doesn't matter. She wants them. That's what she wants. So I think it would be challenging to figure out, when you subtract the
Yeah.
premium back out of it, is she ahead or not? I did another one for $52 million last year in August, maybe October of last year, I think it was. And you're more familiar with that one, I think. And, you know, silver was bought way over 1 million ounces of silver at $18 an ounce. So do the math, at 28 almost.
Yeah,
She's up
that's
10 million bucks easy on that.
Jesus.
And the majority of the silver she bought were in 1,000 ounce bars held
Oh
at,
my
at,
God.
at Brinks.
So you're
Uh,
saying this lady just already is up $10 million?
That's only on half of the order, though. I mean, the other
Oh
half was
yeah.
in gold, and that gold was,
Oh
I
my
don't know,
gosh.
18, 1900. So, she's all in, she's up millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Tens of mil. Oh my gosh. I never
So,
thought of it like that.
but
Wow.
that's the thing, it's just all about
You
size,
should you
but
should just
but percentage wise, gold and silver have done very well. When you look at it in that light, you can understand that percentages, these percentages that we see in cryptocurrencies and Nvidia stock, they're not real. I mean, they are, but they're not. I mean, from a historical standpoint, if you make 7 or 8% a year, you're a rock star. And gold and silver have certainly done that over the last several years. They're not keeping pace with things that are moving in a exponential fashion like those assets, and largely due to $6 trillion worth of money created in the last 12 months, where if you spent $100 every second of every day, 24 hours a day, it would take you almost 2,000 years to equal that 6 trillion that we spent in 12 months. But when you have interest rates for the past 15 years that have been suppressed and all that money, you get all the distortions in these asset prices. Gold and silver have been the only ones that haven't been distorted yet. Everything else has. So you can see that they've actually done quite well. And if you have a large amount of money and put it away, you can actually make a lot too. And in her case,
yeah.
she did.
You should call her up and be like, hey, you realize you're already
Oh,
up
I
like
talk with her all the time about that. I send
yeah,
her messages all the time.
that's insane.
And
That
to be
is
honest with
insane.
you, she only wanted gold. When she called, she only wanted $52 million worth of gold. And ironically enough, as you know, she heard about me on your show. And I don't know if people know that. You know that. But we had a long talk about silver, and she reluctantly put roughly half of it into silver and thanks me every day for that.
So this one is really funny. Okay, well, all right. So we'll go to this one first because this is an important one. There's no particular order, but this person says we desperately need a simplified version of silver manipulation mechanisms. People have understood, or people have to understand how much power does JP Morgan really have? Why is the metal deriving value from its paper derivative? Andy needs new verbiage. Current ones stopped working years ago. It will push him to nuclear logic. Make him explain it as if he was talking to a child. That's literally explain it to a child if you could break it down like that.
I mean, in essence, the very, very, very big banks who have tremendous amounts of money, they sell silver and gold that they don't even possess. It's called naked onto the marketplace by selling paper contracts. that offer tremendous leverage. And each contract of gold is 100 ounces. Each contract of silver is 5,000 ounces. And if you have enough money where you can sell these paper contracts that push down the price, you can suppress the paper price. And these big banks know where the positioning is on all of the hedge funds. They know where they're positioned. They know their pain points. And most of the people trading in COMEX, gambling in it, if you will, the funds, well, they don't have pain tolerance. They're in it to make little bits of money all the time. And so if they speculate and go long, meaning they're buying it, they think the price is going up, these banks like Bank of America, who is short 1 billion ounces of silver, they can continue to suppress the price by selling paper contracts onto the market to drive down the paper price. It has nothing to do with physical reality. And that works until you get entities and sovereign nations who use that against us, like they're doing now. And that's why you see massive draining of all of the exchanges. What it basically is there is the way that the COMEX market was set up was with tremendous leverage that you can control the price of these commodities if you have enough money by selling or buying them on paper. The paper market is what derives the price, not the physical commodity. That needs to change. And it just allows the very, very big money to control the paper price. It's a very hard, I'll think about that one and maybe come back next week with a more articulate answer. But
Yeah.
that's as basic as I can get, is that the paper market is a levered form of the real thing, really is detached from it in the respect that these banks who have endless amounts of money, or Bank of America, can sell short 1 billion ounces of paper to the market. They don't have those billion ounces. They sell it to the marketplace, which drives down the price. And that's in essence how they suppress it. And that's been going on for a very long time. I'll think of a more clear way. Kind of caught me off guard on that one. And maybe let's circle back and talk,
Yeah.
bookmark that and ask me
Yeah.
that question again next week when we do our next show, and I'll have
Yeah.
a more articulate answer.
Okay. Yeah, I like doing these questions because I like, having giving other people a chance. I also, price manipulation also a very common one is like spoofing, like placing false or buy sell orders on the exchanges and then canceling the order before it goes through, which is what those three people that got sent to prison, or the two people that got sent to prison, Michael Nowak, I think, is like the,
Yep.
and
I
then
know
and then the one for RICO charges. But
they dropped those.
so this person says, I've been thinking lately about when we go to CBDC, where do we think the price of physical silver and gold could go? Could it be separated from the paper price since it would be the only currency available for under the table transaction? This is a weird question. This is one of those, like, or even if not separated from the paper price, could the metals be in more demand, driving up price since they would be the only tangible forms of payment left? That's
Well, I
a
mean, but
weird.
the question is price. What's he measuring price against?
Yeah, it's hard to
Value or
tell.
price is not arbitrarily measured. What's it measured against? The new
Yeah,
CBDC? And I mean, you could argue that's already happening. I mean, the price of gold and silver have been going higher, meaning the dollar price is going lower, and it's also going lower as it's measured against something like oil, right? As gold goes higher, it's becoming less expensive in terms of oil, more expensive in terms of dollars. So yes, as something that is demanded that way, it would push up the value, but against what? And so if the only currency is a CBDC, when you come back out into the ecosystem, what do you switch into? And that's
yeah,
something that there's really no way around. But giving it, let's just say, it would have a greater impact on its scarcity, on the ability to accumulate it. Because if it is the only red pill, if you will, exodus from the matrix, how hard is it going to be able to find the red pill? And what is it worth in that respect? Maybe more than the new currency would tell you it's worth. Maybe there's a greater demand in the black market, if you will, if that is the only way of trading, as he says, outside the CBDC. Then what is its real value? And that's, what's a box of 9mm bullets worth if you have a gun and no bullets and there's insurrection? People are going house to house. So what is its real value? Well, measured against what? And I would say in the CBDC, you'll start to see perceived value greater than the price that is put upon it.
With many people holding silver until the gold to silver ratio is in line with where it should be, is there a likelihood of there not being enough gold available for silver holders to swap when the
That's the
ratio is much?
one that is the only issue that I could ever see. And I tell that to people. If there was a black swan in that, or a flaw in the ideology, it would be that gold would be tougher
Yeah,
to get if it coincided with some sort of an event. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess that could happen. Look at all the things that have happened in the last 3 years that none of us would have ever thought were possible.
yeah,
So that would be the only fatal flaw. I do think that it's still a opportunity worth taking advantage of to a degree. Um, some people would like Bix Weir would tell you maybe not go back into gold, but being that it is the only other tier one asset in the world, to me, it makes good sense. You don't have to do it with all your silver. But I saw it in 2010. I first started talking about the swap. It was the second time in human history that we had a 85-1 ratio. And I called Bix and I said, Bix, let's do a podcast. I think it was the first one I ever did. And we told people, hey, it's 85-1. It's happened one other time in history. Trade your gold right now, get 85 ounces of silver in theory. And within 7 or 8 months in mid 2011, anyone who would have traded their gold to 85 ounces of silver would have only needed 37 ounces to go back into an ounce of gold, which was just below its 200-year average of roughly 42 to
yeah,
1. It was $50 silver and 1915 gold. That's 37 to 1. Anytime you get farther away from historical averages, the magneticism that regresses to the mean or pulls you back to the average becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. So I think it's a once in a generation opportunity actually, and I would actually take a chance with it, even knowing that that is a potential pitfall.
yeah. Speaking of Bix, I actually did a video. I just posted it this morning, a couple hours ago. He was posted on the Silver Academy dissecting the research of Bix Ware, severe criticism of Silver Institute's World Silver Survey. Bix basically it goes over some information that Bix found on Road to Root on his site, going over the Silver Institute's numbers and how off they are. Because you can see their actual reports that they publish, and it even shows where is it on their World Silver Survey right here, and what the actual percentages was and how ridiculously low they were. It's pretty cool. It's like it's cool to see someone actually putting some investigative work to play. So I wanted to
Well,
shout that
the
out.
pickaxe, John Little and the Silver, they've done the Silver Academy. They've done a great job
Yeah.
of showing one of the things that I found interesting in one of his latest articles. He talked about or showed a newspaper article from the 40s
Yeah,
that
I
talked
showed
about
that.
200 million ounces of silver being needed for the military endeavors. And, that is interesting considering that it's not listed in the Silver Institute's numbers on supply demand. And yet, I think that's it right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I made this
If
video
you yeah, go
yesterday.
down to that article right there. That was
Yeah.
written in like 43 or 44.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Yeah, 14,
in
yeah,
fact, there was a
42.
different one that he sent
Yeah,
me, and it
yeah,
looks
there, yeah.
just like that.
It was,
I
yep,
have
I
it right
know.
here.
Yep, that's what I thought yesterday too. I was like, where's the original? Yep,
The
you
original one, I have it
it's
right here, and it
yep,
says that the present consumption of silver for war
here it is.
purposes
Yeah,
is at the, yep, that's it right there. 200, two
yeah,
hundred million ounces a year is what they think it's going to go to. Well, I mean, that's in the 40s. So, where did all that silver demand go? And when you look at the wars that are being fought around the globe, the need for high-tech weaponry has never been higher. Where is the silver? Why isn't that listed there? And I had a very interesting conversation with someone who is a consultant at the Department of Defense in Las Vegas here, same guy that I've been talking to for the last few years. And he, interestingly enough, they don't even mention silver in terms of, these governmental agencies talking about scarcity. The biggest thing they're concerned about, ironically enough, is microchips. And, they, for whatever reason, are just doing all they can to keep people in the dark as to the need for silver in the military industrial complexes need to keep it low for high tech weaponry. So yeah, I think the pickaxe, they call it now the Silver Academy Substack. Their research really is, for the most part, very, very unique and in many respects second to none in this respect. I think people
Ground.
should check them out.
I think it's groundbreaking. I think that was the missing piece of the puzzle. Like I've been covering the shortage for so long, and there was always something missing, and now that aspect makes it all make sense. I think that was the missing puzzle piece that John Forslittle found. Like
Yeah, well,
honestly, like
why would Bank of America be naked short, a billion ounces? Why? Why would Michael Nowak be in prison running the J.P. Morgan trade desk, and yet they're still allowed to be the custodian of the world's largest silver trust? I mean, it makes a lot of
right,
sense to me. I
Comex.
agree.
Speak. Oh man, I don't even know if I'm gonna go here. Speaking of microchips, 365 days of silver. The guy that made that video says, "Does he still think I'm a moron?"
The amount of time I spent in London while I'm there on business dealing with freaked out people, it was annoying as hell. And I think, there's no harm in an April Fool's joke, but to let it drag out at the very end of the video, he says, I got y'all, didn't I?
Yeah,
Instead, he just, and
he
he's
ended it.
good
Yeah,
at his videos. I mean, I
yeah,
believed it. I had to call my
yeah.
operations, say, open up a damn box, man, because I
Yeah,
never opened my. And he's like, dude, I've opened 10,000 boxes.
right.
There is none of that stuff in there. And then I'm like, well, could it be boxes that are sent to the UK maybe, or sent, who
Yeah, it
knows?
was
And
scary.
so, yes, it was a moronic thing to do. I'm sure he's a
Okay.
good guy. I was
Yeah.
aggravated at the time, but
Yeah.
you know, that's how shit happens
Yeah.
and the
He shouldn't
unintended
just
consequences. If you're going to do something like that, you should at
say it's
least
a
immediately afterwards, like issue, here comes video part two. I was joking. Ha ha ha.
yeah.
Happy April
Yeah.
Fool's Day. But to let it go weeks
Yeah.
created a lot of anxiety. And, it ain't funny when people are opening up boxes and sticking their coins in glasses of water. I
Yeah.
mean, that ain't cool. And
Cause
so, no,
yeah,
I don't think he's a moron, but I think his joke was moronic. And if
yeah.
you're going to do it, you should, let people know it was a joke before. Look, it's like, this is a way big different analogy, but it's like way back when the War of the Worlds with, what was his name? The guy that, uh, I forgot. War of the Worlds was out on radio in the 60s. And, the movie with Tom Cruise. And, but I used to have it when I was a kid on a record with a big book, long before you were ever using record players. You probably never have in your life, but back when we were young, we had to use record players anyways. And War of the Worlds was on the radio, and I forgot, he's a famous guy, actor. He narrated it, and people would jump on in the middle of the thing, and I'm sure there were people committing suicide. They thought we were being attacked, and they believed it. And I know it's completely night and day different, but people believe things
Yeah.
and there are consequences. So if you're going to do something like that, when people are paying big money for their holdings, it's not cool to leave them with that type of anxiety and stress. So the proper way to do it would have been at the very end of the video, say, ha, got you. Bet you all thought you're so smart. April Fools. He didn't do that. That's why it was moronic.
Yeah, especially since most people don't open monster boxes. They leave them sealed. So this person, I found one about BRICS. I know we haven't talked. Okay, this person, Slayer, my question is, what is the basket of commodities in the BRICS? What specifically are they going to be?
We haven't been told. My guess is it's primarily gold because it is tier one, but they do mention, it's interesting. They say basket. So, I mean, who knows? Could it be petro or oil? Yeah, sure. Could it be grain? Sure. I mean, all of these things, it could work using distributed ledger technology where it would have to be rotated. You have to, you can pledge the grain to it, but that denigrates. So could you really do it? I mean, yeah, you'd have to send it out to wherever you're selling it and replenish it. I mean, it would be possible. I think gold is the primary one. That's why they're all buying it. That's why it was reclassified tier one. But I don't know. They have not commented on it other than to say it will be a basket. In fact, there was just clarification on it recently, where they talk about that indeed we are doing this, we are planning it. It will be a basket of the currencies of the countries involved and a basket of commodities. My guess is it would be things like maybe rare earths, gold, silver, platinum, uranium. I mean, any of these things that are needed, um, preferably if they don't denigrate like wheat or things that could actually spoil. Um, and I think that's how you make it work. And that's where blockchain technology comes into play to show the veracity of it. And you do it right, have it independently audited and whatnot. Yeah. But at this point, there is no definitive answer to that.
Yeah, these are some good questions. Here's a really good one. So this guy says, Greg Mariano reported that the Feds have announced they'll begin buying back treasuries. How much do China and Japan hold, and what will the outcome if the Fed prints more money to buy back not only what they print, but what is still being held by those two mentioned and other countries that hold U.S. treasuries? How long before hyperinflation in such an environment occurs? That's kind of
So I
a
know that um, the Chinese have sold a lot. Um, they were at almost 3 trillion. They're at about 700 plus billion. Japan's treasury holdings, it says here, declined 131.6 billion from 1.196 trillion. So, then also fell to 700. China's is at 775 billion. So, they're falling. They are falling. Bigger question is who's going to buy them moving forward. We're supposed to believe that the United Kingdom is taking over second for China. Obviously, the Treasury owns a lot, but who's been buying all of the bonds? It's as Japan and China and Russia and Saudi and all these countries have been selling. It's been the money markets and the hedge funds, the American public chasing yield. They're the ones holding the majority of the treasuries next to the Fed. And the government came out and said we're going to issue starting in the next few weeks a treasury a bond repurchase program in order to help create orderly flow on the world's largest bond market. Well, how does the U.S. Treasury buy back bonds if they're broke? Well, they don't. The Fed will have to conjure up money out of thin air, and like they always do, and buy it. So this is something that is already happening, and I think is being replaced with gold, and ultimately it will lead to hyperinflation because when there's no one left to purchase the treasuries but the Fed, that's a problem. And Jim Willie, a guy I respect, he's a little more fringy than I am, but he's very smart and been proven very right. He's publicly saying that the UK and Ireland and the Cayman Islands are being funneled money under the table by the Fed to buy the bonds to keep this illusion going. And it's almost like Japan is destroying their currency in order to keep this game going by letting their yen fall so far and their interest rates are zero. It incentivizes the carry trade where they borrow in yen and then buy our treasuries earning 5%. They borrow and they're making money in the value of the dollar going higher and against the yen and in the treasury. So, this is a game that there's going to be a lot of twists and turns, but in the end, it's the biggest problem we face. Who wants to hold our debt in a country that is inflating away the value of the currency and in a country that is proven to weaponize the dollar and the treasury market if they have any reason to do so. If countries are not aligned ideologically, well, we'll confiscate it. And which leads me to one quick thing that I just wanted to read. I know you got all these questions, but let me just read. This is just from the Too Stupid to Be Stupid. Hakeem Idiot Jeffries, minority leader of the House, senior Democratic lawmaker, said that he says if Kiev cannot win the war with Russia using billions of dollars worth of U.S. military aid, Washington potentially will have to intervene directly in the conflict. In other words, deploy troops. And when you talk about how stupid this dude is and how woke we've become, you know, and I'm not chauvinist at all, right? And but I want you to listen to the way he says this idiot. He says, "We can't let the Ukraine fail because if it does, then there's significant likelihood that America will have to get into the conflict, not simply with our money, but here it is, but with our service women and our servicemen. I mean, give me a damn break already. Can we just stop the insanity? Can we just speak normally? Right? I mean, yes, we're going to send all of the women to the front lines. I mean, it's just so aggravating that we have to deal with this shit over and over and over again by these idiots. But even worse, he says, he vilifies as Marjorie Taylor Greene, and yeah, she's a lightning rod, but says, meanwhile, Jeffries claimed that U.S. efforts to support Ukraine, including pushing a new $61 billion assistance package through Congress, had been stymied by what he called a pro Putin faction within the Republican Party. This idiot calls her pro Putin because Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was singled out, has called for the funds to be used for domestic needs rather than sent to the Ukraine. Another 61 billion in aid, and she's now a bad person and a Putin sympathizer. No, she's not. She's an American, and she's someone who is a
Right.
patriot who is trying to fix our borders and to fix our crumbling infrastructure and to hire police to fix the lawlessness in the cities, all this crap that we have to deal with. It's just nonstop. So yeah, I think the bond market is a big problem, and it's because of our wokeness, it's because of our weaponizing, and it's because of our inflation and our spending addiction, where all roads lead to higher interest rates, all roads lead to inflation, and I think it's just beginning.
Yep. And every outcome, every single outcome all looks bullish for silver. That's the macro. Like,
Yes.
okay, maybe last week on Wednesday, federal chairman Jerome Powell comes out or whatever, the non-farm payrolls on Friday doesn't look too good for silver, whatever event. But people are so short-minded and short-sighted that they can't see past that. It's like, oh, that meeting on Wednesday, that's bad for silver. I'm panicking now. It's like, but next week there's going to be something else. And then the week after that, there's going to be something else. And then think 2 months from down how many situations are going to occur that's regardless of what's happening right now is irrelevant. Like you got to look at the bigger picture. And if something happening one day affecting the price of silver, pushing it back down to like 26 makes you nervous, then you probably shouldn't be stacking at all, because that means you're not looking at the bigger picture, not understanding silver's true value. Um,
I agree
but
completely.
so I know you have to go, but one last question that I also want to answer because this is really important. This guy says, does silver have any intrinsic value? And if not, what is the word that we would use to describe something that almost has intrinsic value? I'm curious about the uses of silver for its antibacterial properties and its practical use for fixing electronics in a survival situation.
I
So,
mean, that's a question I don't really know. I mean, you'd have to ask MacGyver that. You might not remember who MacGyver is. You're probably too young, but he could fix anything with a paperclip.
yeah,
But look, I mean, silver does have intrinsic value. It is it
yeah,
is it is needed in anything electronic or digital. It's the best conductor of electricity and of heat and of light. It has tremendous
yeah,
intrinsic value. And you could say gold has less intrinsic value than silver, although that's not really true as well. It has intrinsic value, but anything of value that has been, I think to me, um, adopted and agreed upon by every, human being on the planet for 5,000 years as having value is really what we're talking about. It has mass adoption. People agree that the properties that it has have tremendous value. And, um, you know, I don't know what word we could use that something almost has intrinsic value. I would say it does have intrinsic
yeah,
value, very much so, and that's the reason to accumulate it.
yeah,
It is has been for 5,000 years something of intrinsic value, whether it be monetarily or industrially, or in the case of the pickaxe, militarily as well. So I think there are very few commodities on the planet that offer the type of intrinsic value that speaks to multiple uses of intrinsic value. There's not just one use case for it. It is used monetarily, it is used militarily, it is used industrially in many different areas, such as, water purification, medical devices, um, solar panels, and, all sorts of on and on and on. Yeah. So I mean, I understand what he's saying, but I think he's not giving enough credit to
right.
just how much intrinsic value it truly does have.
Yeah, I mean, silver is, I could say, the most valuable thing like that's on the planet. Like if for for in for its intrinsic value within itself. Like no matter who says that 1 ounce coin is worth what is irrelevant, because the coin's value is the 1 ounce of silver inside of it, not the price tag, not the spot price. Like silver has more intrinsic value than anything I could think of. The most highly conductive metal for thermal conductivity, electricity, and light sensitivity. And then he even mentions it's used for it has antibacterial properties. There's colloidal silver in the medical world. It has antimicrobial properties. It can purify water. You put silver in milk, it keeps the milk fresh longer. It's magic, basically. And in electronics as well, like I don't think he's giving silver enough credit. I couldn't think of anything that has more intrinsic value than silver. But anyways, I know you have a
Well,
podcast in
I
three
may
minutes.
let me just see. I may not have to. I might be able to go longer. Let me just see. Hang on,
Okay.
because I just texted him, and okay, I guess we are. I'm gonna
Okay.
have to run. I'd like to, I know we didn't get any of these questions answered. I
Yeah.
would jump back on with you this weekend if you're
Okay.
interested, and
I
we
I
continue.
definitely am. Yeah.
If you want to continue where we left off. So I was thinking maybe, Sunday morning we could jump back
Yeah.
on and do these questions if that's a
Yeah.
possibility.
I like the questions. It brings so much more conversation, and I know people love getting their chance to talk to you as well. So yeah, should
Let's
definitely
jump
keep this
back
going.
on, and you can call this part one, and I'll answer every
Yeah.
single question you got there. In fact, I'll
Yeah.
give you an hour or two. We can go through every single 90
Yeah.
questions, and I'll answer every
Yeah.
one of them
That would be
best I
awesome.
can. So let's count on Sunday morning. Hopefully that works for you, and we'll pick back up where we left off.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good.
I appreciate you, my man. I'll see you in
All
a
right.
couple of days, and I look forward to picking up where we left off.
All right. Sounds good. Peace out, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.